Zerg ill-advised, Templar.
Alrighty then, second set, very anticlimactic opener, but that's the way it goes. You know, I was reading interviews where Stork was talking about after he won his round of 8 games, he was talking about going up against Jaedong, and he said he was going to try to approach this series as if he was just playing a Zerg player instead of playing Jaedong, who has all these championships. He's a very big presence on the stage. Can really freak some players out, spook them in the middle of the games because they're thinking to themselves, I'm playing Jaedong. But Stork, I never really get that sense from him. He does try to approach games. It's just like he's playing any other player on Con or something. Maybe he's practicing with a teammate, playing against Great or something like that. But yeah, maybe that's not the way to go against Jaedong, though, because putting down that 12 Nexus, he wasn't thinking about the kind of player that Jaedong is. He's a very opportunistic player, and he plays with mind games a lot. He knows how to play a best-of-5 series. But there is a problem with that. Jaedong, I'd say, is pretty predictable as far as his best-of-5 series go. I'll talk a little bit more about that in the game, but here we go. This is on Dreamliner. Except down at the 6 o'clock position in brown is Jaedong. Over at the 3 o'clock position in yellow, I think, is Stork. Yeah, I was talking about Jaedong being kind of a predictable player in best-of-5s. I've seen a lot of Jaedong best-of-5s because he always gets to a very high spot in tournaments. So he's had so many best-of-5s against pretty much every race that you can look back on that and see some patterns. And I definitely see some patterns as far as Jaedong's play goes. Jaedong, there are certain things he does. I mean, if he starts off with a win like that, with an aggressive win, he usually goes for aggressiveness in the first game, and then he'll just play standard from then as long as he keeps winning. But if Jaedong loses a game, he becomes more and more desperate as the series drags on. He becomes much more rushing. He goes for earlier aggression, earlier spawning pools as the game goes on. He starts abandoning his safe mid-game play, mid to late game Zerg versus Protoss, or Zerg versus any race, really. So I think Stork could definitely capitalize on that. Stork has been in a lot of best-of-5s too, but he's a much less predictable player. You never know what Stork's going to do. He usually plays safe. Sometimes he goes for Dark Archons, I've seen. Dark Archons and versus Zerg versus Jaedong, actually. He went for Dark Archon in the game versus Jaedong and won that game, which was kind of insane a few OSLs ago. Yeah, but Jaedong, if he loses a game, as I said, he'll start getting more and more desperate. If he wins after that point, if he wins from a loss, after he wins, he will do a crazy all-in rush strategy immediately after to lock down the game. That is how he plays a best-of-5 series. By the way, Stork luckily not going for another 12 Nexus. Yes, it's good to have cannon, Stork. Very, very good. But I've seen Jaedong do this so many times where he'll lose, he'll look very frustrated, he tries much harder in the next game. You see him focusing in, doing a drone micro like that. And if he wins, the next game after that, he'll do like a 4 pool or a 9 pool, just all in Lings or something. I would not be surprised to see him go for another type of early spawning pool Ling bust like he did in the first set. I'm sure he will absolutely do that in another game, if not this one. I mean, Tears of the Moon. Dreamliner. I was thinking of Tears of the Moon, which does have the same map set, and people were calling that one a very imbalanced map as they are calling this one, but I think this one is much more balanced than Tears of the Moon. I do not miss Tears of the Moon. That was probably my least favorite map I've ever commentated on, just because it was so stupid and imbalanced. Oh my god, Stork, he took out a drone. I saw the drone blood splatter there. So Jaedong might just be putting out the red cloak for the bull Jaedong, who is charging the front with these Zerglings. Of course, he won't be able to break through. There is one cannon at the front from Stork. I thought he was putting down a second cannon too. So Stork, man, got a lot of early damage done, taking down a single drone. A drone this early in the game, another drone in red health to Stork, the bastard probe. This is what I love from Stork. His scouting probe is just so annoying. More annoying than probably any other Protoss player's scouting probe. And look at this, the probe is still alive, even though it's been picking at drones. 2 different drones, killed one, got one down, the red health, and it's still in here to get the scout on what Jaedong is doing. Yeah, he's obviously looking for a lair at the moment. He wants to make sure that Jaedong isn't going for a 3 or 4 hatch Hydralisk build. Alright, there's Jaedong going to try to micro around and get rid of this probe. Easier said than done with Stork's probe micro, but it looks like this probe's in red is going to go down finally. So I don't think the probe got the scout on any lair. I think that Jaedong probably morphed that over at the farthest away location. If that hatchery over at the 9 o'clock went up, just as the probe was in there, I think he morphed the lair over there. If he's morphing the lair, we'll have to take a look. No, that base was not up yet. The lair being morphed at the natural expansion away from the probe's sight range. So he is going for somewhat standard play. Maybe, perhaps, if he's not going for a 3-hatch Mutalist or something crazy like that. But Stork, he's much more safe at his front door than he was in the last game. Has 2 cannons up, already has a Zealot at the front to defend against any kind of Zergling run by, which I think Jaedong is trying to do, is grouping up a bunch of Zerglings outside the natural expansion, kind of testing the waters before running away. It's a bit hard to see on the mini-map with Jaedong's brown units, but I saw them run forward, run back, just trying to test the waters, see if the forge was spinning, see if how many cannons were there. You can get a lot of information by running back and forth with Zerglings at the front against a Protoss player. Stork running back, there are no Zerglings here to get rid of the scout, so Stork does get some very vital information there, seeing the lair at the natural expansion, and you might even get to see the next building that pops up. No, Jaedong trying to hide that too, as far away as he possibly can. Mind games, gotta love Jaedong in best of 5s. I love watching Jaedong in best of 5s probably in more than any other matchup, because when he's just doing one-off type of things, you don't see these kind of mind games from him. You see him playing very standard. He doesn't normally go for crazy strategies when he's just playing a one-off game in Pro League or something, or just a best of 1 in the OSL. In best of 5s, you always see Jaedong do some kind of all-in strategy. Always, always, always. He plans it out from the very beginning. He's very much a planning player. But you see the Templar Archives on the way for Stork. Probably going to do some Dark Templar drops. Well, maybe not drops. I didn't see the robotics facility. So probably just try to run in with some Dark Templar, pick off as many drones as he possibly can, and try to keep those Overlords out of there with Corsairs. Doing a pretty good job picking off the Overlords, it seems. Going to pick off 1, maybe 2, maybe 2. If he has a second Corsair running around, he's going to be able to pick off 2. But okay, the Evolution Chamber already on the way for Jaedong, which means he's going to get ready for a Hydralisk bust at the front. Yes, the second Overlord going to meet an untimely end. Yes, that was the sound of an Overlord, as I love to do in commentaries as they die. Okay, so the cannon inside of the main for Stork, so he's playing it extra careful. He hasn't seen a Hydralisk yet, so that's what's kind of making him a bit suspicious. He's thinking, well, you're going to go for Mutalist. I want to be prepared for it, so he throws down a cannon inside of his main. But if he does a bit more scouting with these Corsairs, of course that's going to be much more risky with all these Scourge running around. But yeah, as soon as he sees the Scourge, he's going to be a little bit suspicious. Maybe Jaedong is trying to come in here, pick off those Corsairs with the Scourge, and then move in with Mutas. Of course he's not, but that's what he might be thinking in the back of his head. But alright, Dark Templar on the way. Corsair being chased, but it will get some vital scouting information, seeing the Hydralisk soon, if Jaedong doesn't hide those too, which I don't think he will. But he sees the Hydralisk den, 1 Scourge lands. But I think he'll be able to see this second base, at least get a good idea of what's over here waiting for those Dark Templar. He sees the Overlords. He knows it's going to be pretty difficult. Oh, nice Scourge micro there from Jaedong, but Stork committed to this anyway, backs off. He wants to get a couple of drone kills and then back off to the best of his ability. Jaedong trying to kill those Dark Templar with not enough Zerglings at all. But Jaedong is already trying to secure his fourth base. He's going to take the entire lower left-hand part of the map. But Stork is going for an awful lot of Zealots to start out with. This makes me think he's going for a +1 speed lot attack, which is very, very, very likely with that many Zealots on the ground. But so far, Jaedong, he hasn't been pumping that many troops. In fact, I haven't seen any Hydralisk from him yet. So, yeah, he's just working on his upgrades, it seems. Maybe his Lurker tech, just rushing straight to Lurkers or something, which could be absolutely devastating against this type of attack from Stork. What Stork's doing might be the perfect counter to this. Going in with so many Zealots to this brand new base from Jaedong over at the 9 o'clock position. If he gets rid of this sunken colony, it's going to be pretty easy to take this down. Zerglings popping for Jaedong. He's trying to clean this up with the Zerglings. I don't think he's going to be able to do it. I don't see the +1 or anything like that from the Zealots, but they do have speed, and that should be enough to get this cleaned up. Yeah, I don't think Stork was focusing on his +1. I think he was just focusing on getting enough troops out to break through this base, and I think that's exactly what he's going to be able to do. He's going to lose all of his Zealots. Losing three more Zealots soon, but he will be able to take down at least one hatchery before Jaedong cleans this up with Zerglings. Plus, it looks like Stork is taking his third base in the meantime. He's going to have to cannon up pretty heavily because once Jaedong cleans this up, he's going to be pumping Zerglings nonstop probably straight towards Stork's base. But okay, Stork took out one hatchery, so got a lot of damage done by taking out that single hatchery. But the Hydralisks, I see one Hydralisk out for Jaedong. The High Templar are out for Stork, so he's going to be able to easily protect his front if there is a counter attack from Jaedong. Just storm, 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 and he'll be able to do that just fine. Third base on the way for Stork. Already has a couple of cannons ready, and a big sigh from Jaedong. Yeah, things not going too well for Jaedong, although he has established his fourth base. That is definitely something for him. But the loss of a hatchery this early in the game is not very good. All right, the Lurker is going to the front. I think Jaedong is going to be uber aggressive now that he lost so much. He wants to get a bit lucky here and pick off as many units as he can, perhaps try to deny this base, which is going to be a lot easier said than done. There's one cannon, second cannon warping in, so yeah, it should be able to defend against this. Another cannon, so Jaedong is completely screwed as far as that attack goes. So he's going for the front now, seeing that those units are away. He has one Lurker, only one Lurker. I thought he'd have more at this point. Oh, nice storm from Stork. He storms a bunch of his own probes that were transferring over, but he kills all of the Zerglings that were a threat to him over there. So he's going to be able to establish that third base, no problem now. So now Stork, he's going to group up a ton of Dragoons. He is very Dragoon heavy, even in versus Zerg. And now he's finally working on upgrades. He has his +1. I saw his +2 was spending at the Forge. So he's going to be a huge, huge threat with these Dragoons going straight for these bases, especially with Lurkers out there. Dragoons are so good against Lurkers, so good at outranging them, as long as you can keep your observers alive, which might be difficult if all the Scourge are used to take down these Corsairs. So I think Stork is waiting till he has a pretty hefty observer count before he tries to push again. And did he have a second forge? I didn't see where on the minimap that was for a second, but I don't think he has a second forge, but I do think his one forge is spinning. I've seen Stork do that before, where he has 3 forges. He's done that before to break out of a jam against a game on Andromeda against Modesty, which he was basically supposed to lose, but he didn't because he had 3 forges spinning. Defiler Mound on the way for Jaedong, but this could be a little bit too late. This is a bad time to tech, unless he can hold this back. But it's going to be so difficult to hold back with the Storm, and especially because he's going to try to surround these Dragoons with Zerglings. Luckily for him, Zerglings are very good against Dragoons, but not with Storm like this, and the Zealots at the front to help them out. So there's Jaedong. He was trying to fly in and kill all the observers, but there are 2 more observers left, enough to help Stork stormed these off the face of the earth. Now he's trying to get a nice surround. Jaedong coming in at the opportune moment, but he's being melted by Storm. And as long as Stork has some reinforcements streaming down the map soon, I'd say he'll be able to end this game with this attack right here. Already moving into this brand new base. Well, not brand new base, but the third base from Jaedong. And I think this will be pretty much destroyed. I don't see a way that Jaedong is going to be able to protect this one. He's got the fallback, maybe cut his losses, but nope, that's it. GG. Jaedong decides to tap out, and we have a series. 1 win for each. And now I feel a little bit more confident that I won't have to go out and buy Ben & Jerry's. All right, let's move on to the third set.